I'm ready. I got my drink here, ready to go.
All right. All right. So first of all, I have so many Halloween Zooms, so I'm trying to do something different every time. So do you guys know who I am?
I do. Oh, your costume.
Yeah. Costume, Scott.
Mrs.
Yes.
Done. Didn't even need the gun.
With
Sorry.
the revolver. Wait, Jimmy, you're so good. If no one was getting it, I even can put myself, oh, where'd it go?
I'm sorry, what is Kelly?
In the library.
In the library.
I'm Mrs. Peacock in the library with the revolver.
I love that.
Clue?
That's a clue.
Gun down, Kelly. Jeez.
That's a clue.
5 o'clock Tuesday.
You know, I told you I have a lot of Halloween Zooms. So let me get rid of my library because it's very distracting to me. And get rid of my settings. Okay, shall we begin? All right, so as everyone here pretty much knows, except maybe Kieran is new to sfBIG, so he'll get up to speed. sfBIG is rooted in education. So John and I have been talking the past few years about really how to bring more education to the community and in different ways. This year earlier, when the pandemic hit, we added the pandemic resource page that we did with Burke. It lives on the sfBIG site, and there's also links to it on the Burke site. For anyone looking for a job or considering changing jobs, there's so many amazing resources in there for everybody. But when David Lasker approached me with this idea, I absolutely loved it. And here's a few reasons why. One, because real estate is such an intimidating process. Like the thought of buying any kind of property is so scary. So I figured everyone would definitely benefit from this. And then adding Scott Thompson to weigh in as a mortgage broker just seemed to make perfect sense. Second, both of these guys used to be in the ad industry, and they've left and they've reinvented their career, which is another scary topic and something to consider. So 3, making it all perfect having this during Halloween week just made this like the perfect storm here. There were some people that sent in questions ahead of time. So we're going to try to address those. But if you guys have specific questions, especially because it's a small group of us, just let us know. You can do the chat box, raise your hand, whatever it is. Zach will be paying attention and letting us know. So let me introduce David and Scott, and we'll start with David. What is your real estate drink?
My real estate, hi everybody, it's good to see all of you. My real estate drink, it's called the New Listing Lemon Drop. So every time I get a new listing, I feel like the inner super coming out and I just want to party. So cheers, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Awesome. And this is Scott Thompson. What is your drink, Scott?
Okay, so my drink is much like real estate, not very scary. And my wife went to Costco, picked up a case of Truly. So it is 1 part vodka, the other part Truly. And that's it. And then it's on brand for today.
Yes.
Truly, not scary drink.
Truly.
So Truly has vodka in it already, right? You're just spiking
Yes,
it?
he's double downing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yes.
So mine is the down payment punch, which is vodka, club soda, the fruit punch of your choice, and a splash of your blood, sweat, and tears.
Love it.
It's delicious, by the way. Oh my gosh, yum. All right, let's get started. So as I mentioned, these two fellas used to be in the ad industry, and I too spent my entire career, as most of you know, in the ad industry, various agencies coast to coast. I have huge love for this industry, and that's probably a big reason that I am a permanent fixture with sfBIG. But now I'm a consultant, I'm a trainer, I'm a professional coach. And as I coach people about their careers, I work with them really to identify what their passions are. So looking at David and Scott, what were you passionate about that drove each of you to these new roles? And we'll start with David.
Hi, everybody. So I moved to San Francisco in '99, and I always wanted to work in sales, but there was this new thing coming around in San Francisco called the internet. And I'm like, that sounds really interesting. And I fell into my first publisher back then and had the most amazing 18-year career. I had the privilege of working with some incredible agencies and incredible brands. And more importantly, like kind of what you said, Kelly, just as being part of this community. That was awesome. And just worked with some amazing colleagues, met some amazing clients. But, over my 18-year career, I just started to get a little bit, routine. I would say that once programmatic advertising kicked in, it was just kind of like, it was just starting to get a little bit, just kind of like beyond, my interests. So what I wanted to do was take a step back and really decide like what it is that I truly wanted to do. And I really started exploring my interests. And I remember over the years, I would be driving from A to Z around San Francisco, and I would see like an open house sign. And I would be like, oh my God, that house is for sale. I can't believe it. And I'd pull my car over and I would run in and I would tour the house and I would, meet the listing agent and ask a ton of questions. And just, my interests, my media over the years that I did Architectural Digest and Dwell. I always read those magazines from front to back. So really it was a no-brainer of where I really wanted to go. And then it's just really understanding how to get into that industry. It required 135 hours worth of study. It was pretty tough becoming a real estate agent, and then taking 3 final exams. And then when you finally got to your real estate license exam, there was a 40% pass rate. And I can get good grades, but I have to study really hard. So I worked my butt off and I passed up my first test, and here I am.
Wow, that's a lot of studying. Scott, same question. What was the passion behind you going into mortgage?
Okay, well, so a little quick background. I also digital media sales in 1999. My first job was for a gentleman by the name of John Durham. And as we all fondly know, for a true pioneer in the digital space, a company called WinStar Interactive Media. And working for John, anybody who works for John, you get an appreciation for the power of brand, power of branding, storytelling. And like, he was so impactful in my sales career. After we all kind of, grow up and go on to do other things. And it led me to work for companies like Disney and Univision and iHeartMedia, all really big brands. And I think in the 20 years I did digital media, like anything, it evolves, it changes. And much like David, when programmatic came into play, when you're in media ad sales, there was just a moment where the joy that I once had, that I, when I worked for Durham, I just woke up one day and maybe it was like I was all grown up, and that same joy, like it just really wasn't there. And so, okay, now what? What did I want to do? What skills did I have that could translate into pivoting my career? And the one thing Durham always was great, even back in my late 20s, is building amazing relationships. Durham can tell a great story. He truly appreciates and helped me appreciate just people in general. It doesn't matter where you are within an organization. Everybody has value and everybody has a story. And I had a buddy that was in mortgage and just knew that I had 20 years of relationships and a Rolodex that I could potentially start calling, that may or may not need to refi or purchase a home. And like that made sense to me. I bought a home, I refinanced, and I'm like, and I really enjoy helping people. So mortgage just seemed like a natural fit. I had the courage to again, you have to, the process is a little bit shorter than David's, but like it took me about 6 months to get my license. And I've been doing it for a year and I'm never going to look back. It's been amazing.
Awesome. And, besides relationships, I mean, I can imagine that, whether you're a brand manager or a salesperson or an agency person, that beyond relationships, there's probably a lot other skills that are transferable over to either one of your roles. Is there a couple more that you want to add, Scott?
Sure. The gentleman who hired me, he represented what I thought was good. He helped me purchase my first 2 homes. He helped me with 3 refinances, and I trusted him, right? So building trust was really important. Some of the qualities that seemed like it made a lot of sense that I already had, like problem solving skills, being responsive. But if I really broke it down into like 5 traits that I thought would translate into being a great loan officer, transparency, 1. Sometimes you just have to, you got to tell people straight, good news, bad news, help manage expectations. But, if you're able to be transparent, it's just authentic, passionate, right? So like I've always just, I'm an optimist by nature.
Hey, Scott, is it breaking up for everybody or just me?
Yeah.
That is breaking up, Kelly.
Yeah, Scott, you're breaking
hear
up.
me
I
now?
wasn't sure if it was me. Now you seem okay now.
You know what? I'll talk slower. How's that?
Sure.
Does that work?
No, it was the connection.
Okay. So passionate. I'm a passionate person. I love helping people. So I get to help people achieve the American dream of home ownership. And like that just gave back that personal fulfillment that I just felt like when my job became a job, helping people regrounded me. Being measured and data driven, right? When you're a salesperson, you have to know how many calls it takes to get a lead to become a customer that you can keep for a lifetime. So, using data to help drive all those metrics is important as a salesperson. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, you're back now.
Being accountable, right? So standing behind what you say and helping, in this case, helping real estate agents like David, helping get their clients to the closing. And then the last thing is being connected, right? Having rich professional connections. It's enabled me to be on a call like today with all of you. I have 20 years of media folks that, I'm not saying we're old, but we're those in my Rolodex either have purchased a home or are ready to purchase a home, and I can either help them do that or refinance. So anyway, those are kind of the things that translate really well.
Thank you. David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to add just briefly that, it doesn't matter if you're working in digital media, if you're working for a bank, if you're working in real estate, relationships are the foundation of any business success. And just to clarify, when I say relationship, it's so much more than like, hey, I like you, you like me, let's do business together. It's all about that person providing as much value and service as possible, and then keep continuing to do that. So it's more of a pattern. And, as a person, I've always been someone who is very driven, and I'm not shy of hard work, and I'm happy to do hard work if I'm passionate about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Passion is really important. But I just want to give a shout out to just my 18 years of digital media. I mean, there's other skills that are, for any salesperson or anyone really, it's communication, it's negotiation, it's customer service. And one of the most important skills is listening. And I remember when I walked into that door 18 years ago in digital, and then to the very end, I just really, really kind of honed in on those skills and grew them that I was able to take with me into my new career. And then as far as being an agent goes, I mentioned I'm really passionate about homes, which I am. But to be a good agent, it's so much more than that. It's all about, I just happen to love providing service, and I love being a resource for my clients. I just love to help, and I love to be there. So.
And that's how you are as a salesperson as well. So moral of the story is you can have like a huge long career in advertising and take all of those skills and transfer them to something else that is going to fulfill you. So if anybody has any questions about that, we can talk about it later, or you can contact us separately. So let's go into home buying. Dun, dun, dun. This is really scary. I know when I bought my house, I second guessed every last decision. I was a complete mess. So David, what are some of the common mistakes people make when they're buying a house?
Oh, wow. That is a great question, Kelly. I would say that, the first and foremost, any new buyer out there, or if you already own a home and you're going to buy again, is to contact a good lender. Call Scott. It is so important to understand. Number one, it's important to understand affordability. And when I say affordability, it isn't just your max budget. It's just like, hey, after I write my check for my monthly mortgage, do I have enough money left over, to enjoy my life, to take my trips, to go to restaurants, et cetera? Because you should not be house poor. And the second thing is, get pre-approved for a loan before you start, because you could go on many listing appointments and check out a lot of houses, but if you can't get approved by a loan, that it's all for nothing. So make sure you work with a great guy like Scott, just to get those two together. And like you said, Kelly, buying a house is one of the most emotional things. It's, I always say, you should definitely buy, with your heart, but negotiate with your head. You have to take the emotion out of it. One thing that you could do is work closely with your real estate agent and understand the property's true market value. Say, hey, what is the value of this? Can you run a comparable market analysis so I can understand the price of this property, just to keep you in check, as you're negotiating? I think that's really important.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I got pre-approved, it was for this crazy ass amount. And I was like, oh my God, I can buy this amazing house. And then it's oh, just because they're going to give you that money doesn't mean that you can afford that. So that 20% down payment, especially here in the Bay Area, again, really scary. But now, things are changing. They're always changing. So Scott, for you, speaking of the 20% down payment, is that still the case? Does everyone need 20% down? Is that still the rule?
Nope. So you don't. You don't need 20% down to purchase a home. In fact, in some cases, you don't even need that. You can get 100% financing. If you're in military, you can get a VA loan. You also don't need to put 10% down or even 5% down. There's a wide variety of programs available. So without getting too in the weeds, there's some pros and cons for putting 20 down compared to less. But I mean, obviously, a lower loan amount or no mortgage insurance. But again, there's a lot of different products out there, so it's worth exploring what options are out there based on your own individual situation.
So along those lines, and while we're talking about what you're putting down and who to trust, even what is what is the benefit of going to a mortgage broker? Did they offer better rates like a bank or a credit union?
You know, I'm going to try to be very unbiased today. So I am a loan or a mortgage broker, but
Okay.
can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
that was out there.
Was so strange.
That was-
I thought these were all a myth, these Zoom hacks.
We were
Wow.
Zoom hacked. We were Zoom hacked. Oh my.
God, I can't believe it.
I'm so glad you have this recorded, Zach.
But Kelly, does it fit the Halloween theme?
Totally, I guess. If you're like, oh my God.
Okay, well, the meeting's locked now, so no.
I was just gonna say how impressed I was with Scott talking about the value of a mortgage broker. And
You
I was
know
like,
what?
oh, I totally
you know
get them. Like I totally get their value. And then these guys popped on. I was like, what? I don't
I
understand.
know. I was like, ooh, look at all these people wanting to hear Scott talk.
There's a lot of things out there, but at the end of the day,
Oh my God.
wow, that was amazing.
That was crazy. I can't wait to watch the repeat of this. Anyway, back to you, Scott. What are the pros and cons? You know, can you get better rates? That's what we were talking about. Like, why go with a mortgage broker?
So I would just say there's no easy answer. Actually, you should visit or call all of the above. Mortgage broker, online, banks, credit unions. Familiarize yourself with what options are out there and be an informed consumer. And I would like to believe there's a lot of benefits to working with a broker. But again, today, I don't want to biased. I appreciate that I'm on. I just, you know, be informed. You'll still end up with me.
What are we talking about here? Like if there was some sort of savings, you know, what would it be? Like could you really make a difference if you went from one to the other?
You know, probably in all honesty, all your different choices, you're going to be within 1/8 of a percentage for your interest rate. Your closing costs, some of the fees, the fee structures are going to be different between like banks, credit unions, brokers. So there's definitely, you can save money. You just, again, I think finding someone you trust is where you should start.
Right. If you're talking
Understanding.
only 1/8 of a percentage, that seems like.
Well, and even if you take rate out of it, right? And if we go back to like the premise of what we're talking about, like the mortgage process, it's scary. If you find someone that you trust and they help take you through the process from start to finish, there's a value in that service above and beyond the interest rate you're going to get. So what I would, again, if you're talking to a call center, you're only going to get a certain level of service. A broker or a bank you're just going to get a different level of service. And again, without saying where you're going to get your best deal.
It's all personal.
Yes.
Okay. So if I or anyone here magically gets pre-approved and they think they have some sort of idea of their budget, what are the next steps? David, I would guess that would be enter the real estate agent.
Enter the agent. So when I get a new buyer, the first thing that I like to do is set up an intake appointment with the buyer. I would normally go to my office. We can sit at a conference room at the other side of the table with masks on, or we can do a Zoom call like this. And I like to walk them through the home buying process just to kind of, get them at ease with how this whole industry works and the whole process. And then the next thing I want to do is ask a lot of questions. So if you don't have a real estate agent asking a lot of questions, run. What I like to do is I want to understand your non-negotiables. What are your 5 must-haves in any property, whether it be in-unit laundry, or I need two bedrooms, or I have children, just these are things that I have to have. And that'll help me narrow down, the listings that I could send to that client. Another thing is for me to understand, what their lifestyle is. What neighborhoods, well, people might want to say, oh, I want to move to Marin, or I want to move to Oakland, or I want to move to San Francisco. And I'm like, great, but like, what neighborhood would you like to be in? What fits your lifestyle? Because you're not just purchasing a piece of property, you're also buying into a community. And that's really important, is just to understand like your surroundings with that. And when we start going around, I'm not afraid to point out, hey, this is what's wrong with the house either. That's like the first thing I do. So if you have someone I like to be a little bit of a contrarian, just a little bit, because I think that's important to point out. And then finally, since COVID, all of the open houses have been canceled. So what I have to do is make a appointment with the listing agents, and we have to sign COVID advisories. And then I take my client out. It's a lot more of a process now because of COVID. But since that time, really, the real estate industry has really gotten on their toes and developed some incredible marketing. I mean, the websites have gotten so much better, the photography, the 3D Matterports, the video tours. So if I send my clients like 10 properties, I'd say, hey guys, really start looking at all this marketing, look closely, and then pick your top 3 and 4, and then we can go make an appointment in person.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, all of us have rented before in our lives. And do you remember like moving to the Bay Area for the first time and you're like, what neighborhood do I live in? Imagine that times like 100, because now you're buying property and you have no idea. So that's a really good point. And you also brought up COVID, sitting at each end of a conference room with masks on and all that. So how has the market changed with COVID, and like, where do you see it going in the future? And I'll start with David, but I'm going to ask Scott the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised to hear that San Francisco has seen record inventory since COVID. I just checked the MLS today. There's well over 2,000 listings available of single family homes, condominiums, 2-unit buildings. And that is for the first time that much inventory in decades. I mean, we have not seen that much. So there's a couple things going on. One is due to shelter in place, people were not putting their properties on the market. Obviously, it's not safe. So they couldn't do that. So once they lifted that, there was a flood of properties. And on top of that, there's also a lifestyle shift. So there are people who are up and leaving for the suburbs. There are people who are leaving out of state. There are people who have a small, maybe studio apartment that they want to upgrade to for something larger in the city. So there's a lot of, activity going on. And the most common question I get for everybody, whether they're a buyer or not, the minute you say, I'm a real estate agent, the first thing they ask you is, how long is this going to last? Mm-hmm. And the true answer to that is nobody knows. You can have an expert saying this or that, but what my opinion is, what I believe is, San Francisco will 100% be back. There's always going to be an allure to the city. What it's going to probably take is, a cure to COVID, a vaccine, and then it's not going to be like a light switch. It's just going to be a gradual return to normal. And speaking of that, I put together 2 slides, and Zach, I was wondering if you could show those 2 slides, and it'll just give you like a cool visual, interesting visual.
Nice.
So this is the median sales price. So there's definitely a story about 2 different kinds of property types in the city. Again, this is not Marin or Oakland, this is San Francisco. So if anyone has any questions about, outside of the city, definitely look me up and I can answer those questions. But as far as San Francisco goes, this is San Francisco County. And on the left, those orange, that's the median sales price for single family homes. And so as you can see, that's going up from 2018 to 2019, up 2%, but then up 8%. So what that says is just, the home market is on fire here, and it's really healthy and it's doing really well. But if you look to the right, those are the condominiums. So from 18 to 19, we were up 15% in your median sales price. But look at what happened during COVID. It really dove down. So our median sales price is down, 9% at 1.2. And Zach, you want to get to the other slide. Again, this is also showing the tale of two different, products. We've got the single family homes, which is still very much a seller's market. They're flying off the shelf. But if you look to the right and you look at the condominiums, that is a massive jump in inventory, available for condominiums. So that says currently in 2020, it's up over 100%, the inventory. And we're about 8 months supply. So what that means is, it's going to take that long at the current sales cycle to sell all the inventory we have in condominiums. And people are value shopping. Condominiums are clearly where, those values are in San Francisco. So.
Wow, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Scott, what about mortgages? What does the future look like? How has COVID changed mortgages?
Sure. So I'm going to take a broader kind of approach to my answer. So not specific to San Francisco. So prior to the pandemic, the housing market was booming. Prices were increasing while inventory was at its lowest level in 40 years, which is a little bit different than the story David just kind of described for San Francisco post-COVID. So home prices have been increasing and inventory should remain tight because new construction has been slowed due to COVID. Meanwhile, demand for a home ownership has been pent up for those folks living in apartments, and they are looking for more space, right? So those are the folks that are looking to move out of the cities. And remember, probably one of the biggest drivers of home buying is having children. So many expect childbirths to increase over the next year, right? People have been pent up. They need to, I see one child on people being busy. Trying to get to summarize, like with demand rising and supply being relatively tight, home values should be well supported for the future, meaning home prices are not going the other way. And in the current market, appears to be a great opportunity for people to purchase homes.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go to one of the questions that was sent in. That's someone emailed me. Buy versus rent. And what are the indicators to potentially switch? David or Scott, who wants to take that one?
David, you want to take it first?
I think, no, you're better at that. We talked about this earlier.
Okay, done.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the stance that you should purchase. And I'm just going to talk through simple examples. So I haven't lived in San Francisco for a couple years now, but let's just say that somebody has a monthly rent of $2,400 a month. And I'm also going to use, in this scenario, purchasing a home for $750,000. And why, if you were paying $2,400 in rent, why spending $3,800 a month? So almost a little over, call it $1,200 more. Why that makes sense? So on that $750,000 home, like I said, your monthly mortgage would be $3,800. And if you compare that, right? So here's where it's going to start making sense. In 9 years, if we figure that the average appreciation for homes in the Bay Area is 8.12%, that home after 9 years is going to be $1.5 million, $13,967 in 9 years. If you're paying a landlord, are you getting any appreciation for what you're spending to that landlord? No. So really, the net gain for buying a home based on the scenario I just threw together would be, in 9 years, you would be $681,858 ahead.
Wow.
If you were paying rent. So really the answer is about building wealth, and you're not building wealth if your own wealth, if you're paying rent. You're just living. So you tell me what makes better sense.
I mean, it sounds like buying. What about making an offer? Are there any hard rules, David, like to make an offer?
Sure. Yeah. Once you come into, I take a client into the property, they fall in love with it. The first thing that you need to work with your clients is the price. So listing agents have different strategies. They can price, hey, this is way too expensive, or this is something called transparent pricing. Transparent pricing is what the seller is honestly just wanting to sell the property for. Sometimes agents will severely underprice a property just as kind of a gimmick, just to get as much attention as possible. It's kind of like a marketing thing. And then they want to start a bidding war from that. So I mentioned this earlier, but the comparable market analysis is key. That is what similar properties go for in the immediate area for what's sold in the last 6 months. So we can really tabulate that, and plus the cost per square foot in the area. There's all kinds of different formulas to look at, but really working with your listing agent and understanding what prices. The second thing is to talk to your buyer's agent about contingencies. And the 3 main contingencies are appraisal, inspection, and finance. And all those are is just to be there, just to protect the buyer, within a home buying situation. And so when you put together a proposal, an offer, one of 3 things could happen. They could either sign it and accept it. They could say, you lowballed me, I'm totally insulted, and just kind of walk away. Or they could present something called a counteroffer. Now back to this condo market that I'm talking about, where there's a lot of great deals. So what I'm seeing is 2 things. One is it's ultimately up to the seller if you're looking for getting a good deal. If you see a condominium that's on the market for over 35 days, bingo, that's something you could hone in on. And the buyer's agent should be calling the listing agent and asking questions about that seller. And in some cases, the seller has a lot of deep pockets, they have enough money. They're like, I'll ride out the storm. I don't really need to sell, blah, blah, blah. But then there's other sellers who are like, get me out of here. I need to sell fast, and that's when someone can, really kind of dive in and get a good deal.
I'm going to ask 2 questions that were put in the chat box. I'm going to start with Heidi, and I know you asked it second, but I'm going to go back to Kieran's. David, you mentioned inventory increasing 100%. My understanding is that SF typically has very low inventory. Do you know what the year-over-year numbers are for 2020 or how to measure that?
Yeah, I do. I've got tools that can measure inventory, and I can provide all that data to anyone. That is right at my fingertips. But again, we're attributing all this inventory to, just people, lifestyle changes. And if you look at some neighborhoods, like Soma was hit really hard. It feels like a ghost town out there. But if you want to be contrarian, that's also where you can get the best deals too, and you can swoop in. But, would you want to live there for a few years? But again, I think Soma might be the last neighborhood in San Francisco to come back. But today is a great time to go in there and get a great deal if you're looking for one.
Another question. Are there any stats on how the stressed infrastructures like bad roads and the rising crime is contributing to the rise in inventory?
Yeah, there is a lot of, okay.
Great question.
Yeah, so what I said earlier about it's going to take a COVID cure and then everything to come back. There's also another piece to this puzzle, and that reminds me of, and there's a lot of ballot initiatives on the California and San Francisco ballot, with a lot of taxation. So I think it's going to have to take the city to come up with some good plans and proposals to make the city business friendly again, to address the homeless problem. There are a lot of other factors besides COVID, that the city needs to address in order for things to come back. But that said, we're in a really interesting opportunity. If we got our politicians to put their heads together and, wipe the slate clean, we can build back an incredible city. So let's hope that people take the next step forward. And if anyone has any questions about particular stats, email me and I could definitely help you with any question like that.
All right, I'm going to switch to a question for Scott from Jim. What's the average time right now it takes to close a first mortgage? And then same question for refi.
So for a new purchase, anywhere from 21 to 30 days, right? It really depends on the agent, the person selling the home. If you're a seller, you obviously want your money as quick as possible. So a shorter, so I would say probably 21 days. David, would you agree?
Typically in typical markets, my average close rate was 21 days, but because of COVID, we've been putting them to 31 days in closing. And the reason is the banks can fully give you a loan and underwrite you on a loan within 21 days. But those banks need an appraisal to come in, or they need an inspector to come in. And those inspectors and appraisals are really stretched thin. So it's just really getting them on schedule. So just to be on the safe side because of that, we recommend 31 days.
And since we touched on it, Scott, you want to talk about refinancing? Is that something that people should be doing right now? Rumor is rates are low.
Yes. So the answer is yes. Arguably the best time in like 50 years to save money on your mortgage or reduce the amount of years remaining on your mortgage. Interest rates have never been so low. Just to give a little bit of historical perspective, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but 1970 rates were at 8%.
Oh my God.
June 8th, 1981, they were at 18.33%.
Wow.
Just 10 years ago, October, 4.23%. And today, average 2.8%. And
Wow.
so, and here's what I think is somewhat compelling that I can leave you all with. Let's say a homeowner took out a $600,000 mortgage within the past 5 years. On average, they'd stand to save $366 per month if they refinanced right now. So that's over $4,000 a year, $4,392 to be exact. And then to answer your question about how long refinances are taking, because interest rates are low, all financial institutions are spread unbelievably thin. They didn't hire tons of people to process loans. It's not a woe is me, poor financial institutions, but takes about 60 days to get a refinance done.
Wow. Good to know. Another question for David. Do you like representing sellers or buyers, and why?
I like doing both, but both for different reasons. For buyers, like going back to what I said, I just love being a resource for people. I love to help people. I think if you're part of, it's kind of like remembering like all of your teachers in elementary school. Like you never forget your real estate agent, and your real estate agent is just a major part of your life. And so what I try to do is not only, so as far as buyers or sellers go, I like both in different reasons. And as far as the sellers go, I love, working with stagers. I love walking into a property and going, and then kind of having like a before and after, and then just really setting it up for market. I love marketing properties too. I love, working with my marketing team at my brokerage, Vanguard Properties. So I really like doing both, but for different reasons, because helping a buyer and helping a seller, it's two different things entirely.
Yeah.
But,
another question, how are markets as we go down south through the peninsula into the valley? Are they better than SF?
That's a good question. I have to go back and look at market data for down there, but I know that, in Oakland and Marin, those markets right now are on fire, especially, I mean, not literally on fire, but, with with a lot of activity and interest. But I'd have to go back and get some specific stats for the peninsula. Yeah.
Awesome. What about what about someone who is looking to invest, like not have it be their first time home? Like, what about someone who's looking to invest? Is this the right time?
Sure. So I don't deal with investment properties, but at my brokerage Vanguard, if anyone is interested in doing an investment property, I've got so many resources at my brokerage. You can definitely reach out to me and I can connect you with an agent who specializes in that. And I think there's some great opportunity right now, for sure.
Awesome. Anybody else have any specific questions for these guys while we have them?
I've got one for David.
Mhm.
We've started to dip our toe into the real estate market, but what we're finding, as a family that's looking for more of that single family home, is that agents are refined to very small arenas. So it's like there's Oakland agents, there's Marin agents, there's South Bay. Like, are you primarily focused in the Bay? Is it just that there's so much going on that it's hard to spread your wings, or how does that work?
Yeah, I help buyers. I love crossing the bridge. I really do. I've taken buyers out to Marin. I've taken buyers out to Oakland. Typically, though, if someone was interested in something up in Sonoma or Lake Tahoe or Santa Clara, I then refer that to another agent. But if something's in the immediate vicinity, like Oakland or Mill Valley or any of the close Berkeley, I've done deals there a lot in the last couple of years. And so I can definitely help you if you're interested in looking beyond the city.
I have a question for both of you.
Yep.
This is Durham. Both of you did your jobs. You respectively worked in the field of buying and selling in our business. But one of the things that you did is you joined organizations such as BIG. I mean, both very active. This is not a setup question. Are there, I know you hear about the home builders and all that. What kind of trade associations are in both businesses? Do they have the kind of situations that our industries do where, I'm just curious, is that relevant today in the post-COVID world where human touch is challenging for us at BIG, but you're both very giving, and that giving gave you enhanced credibility. Is that same industry opportunities available in both sides of the business?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, we have in San Francisco, we have something called the San Francisco Association of Realtors. So we sign up with them and we pay them a quarterly payment where we have access to the MLS. But John, to your point, they have all kinds of learning seminars, all kinds of social activities. They have a lot of opportunities to join a board or a committee and just get more involved in the industry. And, when you're a real estate agent, you're not really working for a company. You're working at a brokerage, but it's really basically your own business. So it's harder to get to know other agents with the exception of, being in a negotiation. But what SFAR does is, they bring a lot of great minds together, a lot of great agents together and people in the industry. So we can get together to learn, to socialize, to collaborate, and to make the industry even a better place. And now is the time where it's just so important because of COVID. We're really kind of strapped for a lot of resources that we used to be able to do that we can't do any longer. So we're just really banding together as an industry to try to get it all done together. But the SFAR. So thanks for asking that question.
And I guess I can, so kind of dovetailing on Tony's question, like what I've found since I've been in lending now for over a year, it is very localized, right? So, so I live in Walnut Creek, and there's two organizations on Tuesday mornings at like 8 in the morning. There's called CCRIM, which is Contra Costa Real Estate in Motion. They do a breakfast. They have real estate agents and lenders come together in a forum where we can talk about the business. And on Thursdays, very similar, in Danville, California, there's Real Estate Marketing Association, which is RMA, which essentially does the same thing, where you're networking buyers and sellers and real estate professionals, talking about the market and innovation. And so not as special as sfBIG in any way, just because none of these organizations have Durham as part of their, but again, they have really good people. It helps you get connected to the community. For me, being new into a new industry, it helps me learn and find other people that are willing to share information. And again, it's different than big, but there's organizations that are specific to what we do.
We're at 6 o'clock, but if anybody, like, parting words for someone looking to buy right now, like last minute zingers that you might not have touched on for either one of you.
Do it.
My email is david@davidlasker.net.
I was just going to ask if you could put that in the chat room.
Yeah, I'm going to put my contact information. And even if, I'm happy to help you if you're looking to buy or sell or looking to connect with another agent for investment. And I can definitely make any kind of connection if that goes beyond what I offer. And even if you just have a question, if you're just interested in the stats, if you're interested in research in San Francisco, Oakland, the Peninsula, et cetera, I'd love to help anyone out. So I'll put that in the box.
Awesome. And Scott just put his as well.
Yeah.
So everybody who wants those contacts, grab them now before we close everything out. Although you can probably just email me and I'll have them for you.
And can I finish with this? So
Yeah.
Durham's always been big about thank yous. And so I would definitely want to say thank you for all of you joining. Thank you for having me. Thank you, David, for coming up with this idea. And again, be safe out there. Crazy world we're living in. And really appreciate you.
And again, just to echo Scott, thank you to sfBIG and everybody joining tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
David.
Thank you guys. This was very informational. All right, everyone have a good Tuesday night. As I
Cheers.
continue to drink
Cheers.
my down payment
Cheers.
punch.
Thanks, Kelly.
Bye,
Thank
Kevin.
you, guys.
Bye, guys.